So Salesforce comes up in different packages. Packages, when I say, I mean additions, or I mean the features. It comes up with different features with different additions, right? So what all functionalities and features you need, based on that you will decide on addition. Okay, so they have additions starting from a contact manager edition, which is a $5 per user per month. Then we have a group edition, which is $25 per user per month. Then we have professional, which is $65 per user per month. Then we have enterprise, which is the most popular edition that they have, which is $125 per user per month. Then we have unlimited, which is priced at $250 per user per month. And we have a performance edition as well, which is $300 per user per month. Alright, all this pricing is per user per month. So these are the different editions that they have. Alright. Now, because there are so many different editions, you can see, they have got the basic editions which cost very less, and the features and functionalities are also very less. Okay, and then we have enterprise, unlimited, performance edition, which have almost all the functionalities of a CRM. These editions can be integrated with other applications. A user can develop their own application, or a company can actually develop their own application. All the functionalities are available, right? So these editions are available for Salesforce. So first of all, a company needs to decide on which edition they want. All right. So gradually, as we do more sessions, we will understand what are the functionalities available under each edition and stuff. Okay. So we'll keep on discussing about that part. So first thing is, you need to decide which edition you want. All right, based on the functionalities that are available. Alright, so you need to understand the requirement of the client or requirement of your company and decide on what functionalities you need and what is your budget also. So it's not just the functionality which matters, you also have to look into your budget, how much you are ready to spend. Are you willing to spend $125 for a user in a month, or are you willing to pay $5 for a user in a month? So functionalities, as well as the kind of amount that you are ready to spend, that will make you decide on the edition. Once you have decided on addition, next thing that you have to decide is how many licenses you need, number of licenses. Okay, what is number of licenses? License means a login ID and password. Okay, so if you have 5 people in the company who will need to use Salesforce.com, you will need 5 licenses. If you have 20 people who need to use Salesforce, then you will need 20 licenses, right? And all this pricing is per user, which means per license. You see this? If all the pricing which I mentioned here is per user or per license. So you decide how many licenses are required, and then you buy those number of licenses from Salesforce.com. Got it? So that is how simple it is. So you'll have to just go to Salesforce.com and you'll have to tell them that I need, let's say, 20 enterprise edition licenses. Okay, they will do the billing for you on an annual basis, which means 20 into 125 into 12. Right? So your billing will be 20 into 125 into 12 for 12 months. This is per month, 20 users. Okay, so which becomes 2,500 into 12. Right, which becomes $30,000. So they will bill you for $30,000. Okay, and you can then get started on this. Now, like definitely, when you're buying multiple licenses, they will allow you some discount and all that stuff. So that will be there. but some figure like this, maybe instead of 30,000 they will bill you some $25,000 or something. They will bill you for this, and you make the payment. You make this payment. They create first user ID and password for you and give it to you. The moment you make the payment, they will create the first user ID and password and give it to you. Okay, so you will have 20 licenses, and first license user ID password will be created and given to you. Now that using that user ID and password, you can create REST 19 users logins on your own. Correct? They will not create all 20 of them. They will just create one, give it to you, and you will have that option of creating it for REST 19 people. Correct? So that is how simple it is. So it's get started like this. Decide on addition, decide on how many licenses you need, approach salesforce.com, they will bill you for an year, make the payment, they will create the first login ID password for you, and you can get started, and you can create for the remaining users as per your requirement. So what email IDs you want to put for those users, what names you want to give, you can do everything. And you can also go and make changes to this user ID and password that they have defined. You can always go back and change it. Right? So let's quickly have a look onto this. What are we going to do here? So, once you have got this first user ID and password, the first thing that you do is you do the personal setup. Okay. So personal setup is basically, as I told you, you can go and change your user ID, password and stuff like that. So personal setup is something that you will do initially. Personal setup is available to every Salesforce user. Personal setup includes things like changing your user ID, password, phone, email ID, things like this, personal setup changes. So how do we do that? In the setup menu, I think we discussed this yesterday. Under your name, you have my settings. So this is where you can go and make the personal setup changes. Click on your name, go and then click on my settings. Click on personal, then click on personal information, and you will be able to make changes to all these things: first name, last name, your alias, email ID, nickname, everything can be changed. Alright, your phone, extension, fax, mobile, street, city. So all your personal setup changes can be done here, right? You have an option of changing the password also here. Right? There are a few more options, we'll talk about them later. But at this point of time, I think we just need to understand that the basic changes that can be made through personal setup are all the personal information, which includes email ID, phone, fax, things like this. Your language and time zone, okay, and your password. So these are the basic important things. Alright, if you want to access Salesforce in a different language, you can always go and make changes here. You want to access Salesforce in, don't know what language is this, the French, okay, so things will get changed into French. So that is, right? If you want to change your time zone, you can change it. Pacific Daylight Time, you just want to make it Eastern Daylight Time, you can do that. So the way you want. Alright. So this is all personal setup. Okay. So to get started, first of all, what you should be doing is you should do your personal setup. If you are helping a client set up their Salesforce, first of all, you purchase the licenses. Salesforce has given you the first login. First thing that you would do is you will definitely go and do your personal setup. Once you're done with the personal setup, second thing that you will need to do is the company setup. Company setup includes a few things. One is the basic info. Basic info includes things like the name of the company, website, phone, fax, these things. So for company setup, you just need to go to the setup menu. Okay. And in the left side, I told you, once you click on the setup, you will see the menu in the left hand side. In the left hand side you will see company profile. Click on this, expand it basically, just click on this arrow mark and you will have company information. Click on this. So in company information you can edit the basic information of the company, as I told you, the name of the company, primary contact, phone, fax, things like this. Okay, so the basic info of the company can be edited. Local info of the company can be edited, which includes things like the default language of the company. As I told you, we have a language option for the personal setup. You can set the language for the entire company also. The default language of the company. Time zone of the company, the default time zone in which your company operates, and the currency. What currency your company deals in, US dollars, Australian dollars, Indian rupees, whatever. Okay, so if you click on edit here, you see the basic info part, organization name, phone, fax, street, city. After that you have default local language, time zone, currency. See, currently it's US dollar, but if you deal in euros, then you, or in INR, you should select that. Okay, so that setup should be done, which currency you deal in. Under company info you also will see the licenses that you have purchased. Okay, this also gives you info on licenses and data usage. Okay, so under the same window you will get to see how much data you have used. Okay, 348 KB you have used, which is 7%. How much file space have you used? Alright, if you scroll down a little further, you will get to see how many licenses you have, how many you have used, how many are still remaining, everything, every detail will be given here. Got it? So if you have purchased 19 licenses, how many you have already used, how many are still available to you, all the information will be available here. Alright, so this is about the company information. Then comes the fiscal year of the company. So we have an option of setting the fiscal year for the company. What is fiscal year of the company? Financial year. Why do you think we will set the financial year of the company? For reporting. So financial year setting will not be required right now, but when you try to do reporting on your data, at that time you will need this financial year. Alright, so that your reporting can be done based on the financial year or the calendar year or the financial quarter, the way you want to define. So under the same company profile, we have an option called fiscal year. Okay, so here you don't have to do anything, just have to set your fiscal year, whether your fiscal year starts in January or it starts in April or it starts in some other month. That is what you have to do. Got it? So that while we are doing the reporting, we have a lot of options available in Salesforce for doing reporting. Alright, so if your fiscal year is set correctly, you can do the reporting based on those fiscal years and stuff, right? So if your company, your manager says that I just want a report of last financial quarter, you can easily do the reporting if your fiscal year is set correct. If it's not set correctly, then what you'll have to do, you'll have to do a lot of, you'll have to hard code a lot of dates to do that reporting, okay, which will make your life a little more tough. Then business hours. Okay. So business hours is to be defined so that the system or the Salesforce application can understand that what all times you your team is working. All right. See what a business hours is. Select the days and hours that your support team is available. Okay, so you need to define the business hours to define when your support team works. All right. Why is it important? How does it help? It helps in calculation of any escalation rules. For example, for cases, yesterday we were talking about cases and stuff, right? So if you have a rule that any case which is not resolved within 16 hours, it should be escalated, then it can work only with business hours. So if you say 16 hours, then those should be 16 business hours. My team is working from 9 to 6, only that time should be counted for escalation, right? If it counts 24 hours of the day, then there will be a problem. So for that, it's very important to define business hours. So you have an option of defining the business hours for each and individual day as well. You can have a separate business hour for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. For every day, you can have a separate business hour set up. Alright, so that part is there. And then the holidays. Holidays are the dates and times at which business hours are suspended. So holidays are basically the dates when you do not do business. It can be a Saturday, it can be a Sunday, it can be another holiday, so that the business hours are not counted for those days. Right. So if I do not work on Saturdays, then it should be clearly mentioned that I do not work on Saturdays, so that the escalation rule does not consider Saturday, into the counting, or the Sunday into the counting. Correct. So that is how it is. Got this? So this is all about the company setup. So ideally, before your team gets started on Salesforce.com, you should do this much of setup, the first time setup. Personal setup is something which you keep on doing a lot of times, very frequently. You might need to change your password and the email IDs and all that stuff whenever required. But company setup is something which we usually do start when we start working on Salesforce. Currency and stuff like this we set. Okay, and there's one more thing. So we talked about three things here. Language. Okay, here we set the default language for company. Okay, in the company setup we are actually setting up the default language for the company, whereas different users can have different language as well. Let's say default language of my company is English, but let's say Sridhar is one of the users in the company. He can have French as his language. We saw that, right? Under personal setup also we have an option of language. So a user can always go and change his language to something else. By default it's going to be English, which we set in the company setup. But if a user is, user is willing to change his language to something else, he can do that. Same is the case with the time zone. Why are we talking about this? Because most of the cases you will come across situations where the client has people, working from different locations. So time zone again becomes important. Language, more or less, English is the common one that most of the companies use. But time zone can be something where different users are using different time zones. Someone is sitting in India, the other guy is sitting in Eastern time, the other one is sitting in Pacific time zone, right? And so you can have different time zones. So every user can set up the time zone. You also can set up time zones for different users. So there is a default time zone of the company. Okay, and then every user can have his own time zone. And then there is currency. So company can deal in multiple currencies also. If I am doing business across 5 countries, then I can deal in multiple currencies also. So multiple currency option is there. Okay, but before you can enable multiple currency, you will have to raise a case with Salesforce.com. So you'll have to raise a request with Salesforce.com. They will enable the multiple currency for you. Got it? So by default, you just have single currency, but you always have an option of getting multiple currency option available. So you have to just raise a request with salesforce.com. They will enable the multiple currency for you. Correct? So that's about the company setup. Now, the other thing that we're going to talk about is security and identity confirmation. How does salesforce.com identify whether you are the correct user or not? Because this is on cloud and anyone can log in from anywhere. You know, if you have a login ID password, you can log in from a cyber cafe, you can log in from your home, you can log in from a friend's computer, I mean, wherever you have an internet, right? So security is always a bit of a concern for the companies using Salesforce, okay? Though, you know, there has not been any such major issue so far with the security, but still, you know, if you are running your own business, if you have your data on salesforce.com, you will always have a bit of concern about the security of the data because people can access it from anywhere, right? So when people are accessing it from any location, intentionally or unintentionally, someone might be, you know, using it in the wrong way. You know, that is what I can say about that. So security and identity confirmation is the process of Salesforce, how it identifies whether the user who is using salesforce.com is correct or not. All right. So this is a very simple process. I'll explain it to you. Just give me a minute. Okay. 1 minute. Here it is. This is the process. This is how it works. First of all, we make a login attempt. Okay. Anyone who tries to log in into Salesforce, okay. Salesforce performs a time check. In the time check, Salesforce makes sure that you are trying to log in at a time which is allowed to you. So we have an option within Salesforce to restrict the users by time. Let's say, see, security concern, when we are talking about security concern, is from both the sides. Companies are concerned about external people using Salesforce as well as internal people using Salesforce after the office hours, or maybe at a position where they're not supposed to log in, right? So they have that option of restricting the users on to a certain time range. Let's say your office hours are from Monday to Friday 9 to 6. You can define your time range from Monday to Friday 9 to 6. So anyone who tries to log in after 6 p.m. will not be allowed to log in. All right. Though this time restriction is just an option, it's not mandatory. If the company does not want to implement that time restriction, they are absolutely, you know, able to do that. There's no problem with that. But if they want to impose a time restriction, that can be done. All right. So Salesforce.com, whenever you try to log in, first of all, it goes and checks the time check. Whether you are trying to log in the time permitted by your administrator or not. Okay. If you are logging in at a time which is not permitted, this check fails and access is denied. So you are not allowed to log in into Salesforce. Okay. If you pass this test, which means you are trying to log in at a time which is permitted, Then there is another check which happens, which is called IP check. Okay. So IP check basically happens to check whether you are logging in from an IP address which is permitted or not. Alright. So this is also an option available to the administrators. They can restrict the IP addresses as well. They can restrict the users to log in from a certain range of IP addresses. Alright. So that is where our IP check will work. Okay. If this test is cleared, login is allowed. So if you are trying to log in from an IP address which is permitted by the administrator, then if you clear this test, your login will be allowed. Again, this IP restriction is an option, it's not mandatory. Alright. If you don't clear this IP check, if it gets failed, then Salesforce performs a cookies check. What is cookies check? Cookies check is basically the internet browsing history check. So internet browsing history check means salesforce.com will check your browsing history to find out if you have logged in from that particular machine earlier or not. Okay. If it finds that you have logged in from that machine earlier, it gets passed and you are allowed to log in. If that also fails, if it finds that no, you have never logged in from that particular machine as per your browsing history information, then it gets failed, and you get an option of activating your machine. How this activation is done? Activation is done by receiving an activation code on your email or mobile phone, and then use that activation code to log in. Got it? So this is the process. This is how Salesforce actually works. So whenever someone tries to log in, it first of all checks whether that person is allowed to log in at that point of time. If he is not allowed to log in, access is denied. If he is allowed to log in at that point of time, it goes and checks if the person is logging in from an IP address which is allowed by the administrator or not. If he is allowed to log in from that IP address, login is allowed. If it fails, it goes and checks whether he has already logged in from that particular machine or not. If he has logged in earlier from that machine, no problem, he is allowed to log in. If he has never logged in from that machine as per the browsing history, then he has to receive an activation code either on his email ID, registered email ID, or the registered mobile number, and use that activation code to log in into the system. Okay, clear? Please tell me if you have any questions here so far. Personal setup, company setup, security and identity confirmation. Any doubts, questions? Anyone? You're all okay? Okay. That's really good. All right. So now I just have a small question. If you guys do not have any question on this, I have a small question for you all. Sonu, can you hear me?
Yes, Jeet Singh.
Okay, I just saw a message from you. Are you there?
Oh, there was a bit of a silence, so I thought maybe I lost the connection.
No. I was opening that PPT. All right. So I just have a quick question for you all. You see, there are two things which are being checked here. One is the time restriction. Sorry, and one is the IP restriction. Okay. We see that in this process, for time restriction, if the person is trying to log in outside the time which is permitted, straight away access is denied. He does not get a second chance. But for IP restriction, if you look into this process, even if he does not pass that, he gets a second option of cookies check. Even if he does not clear that, he gets an option of activation code. What do you think? What can be the reason? For time restriction, it's pretty straightforward. The person is trying to log in at a time which is not permitted, access denied. For IP restriction, even if the person is trying to log in outside the permitted IP address, still he has an option. If he has, if he has logged in earlier from that computer, if he can get the activation code. What do you think? What might be the reason for this? Why do you think they are a little more lenient on the IP address part, and they are a lot more strict on the time part?
Can I try to answer?
Sure, sure. Yeah.
I think my assumption is that on the time check, there is no option of being variable. If I'm saying that as a business owner, I am saying that there's a time from 9 to 10, I want, or 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'm saying all my employees should be able to log in at this time. Whereas an IP check, if I'm assuming here that if in the initial setup that IP was not defined as within the range, Salesforce is just giving the user that if you're logging in, I am a remote user, I am logging in from my home or from somewhere. It's giving me an option to say, can you usually go in and activate your IP so that I can add it to the list. Could that be the reason they're lenient on IP checks?
Yes, that's pretty much correct. So for time, as she said, time there is no option of being variable on that part. Whatever the time is, that is it. For the IP, whatever I think it was Sonu, right? So whatever Sonu said, that's all correct. Just to add on this, if you remember, the advantage of Salesforce.com is that is their unique selling point, that you can log in from anywhere. If they make it very, very strict on the IP address, which means people can only log in from a certain location, then it is no better than an on-premise server. The biggest advantage of Salesforce is that you are independent of location. You can log in from anywhere. So when a company starts working on Salesforce.com, at that point of time, it cannot predict that from where all they will need to log in. They define a certain IP range of their company, which is called the trusted IP range initially, but after some time they might have requirement. Some employee, as she said, someone might need to work from home. Sometimes I might need to go to a client place and need to work from there. Sometimes I might need to access it from maybe I'm sitting on airport and I need to access it. It may be anything, right? So, and that is the advantage that we actually want to have from Salesforce.com. So Salesforce, gives you an option of putting restriction on your users in terms of IP address. At the same time, they give you a little flexibility on that if the user can get the activation code on the email ID or the registered mobile number, which means they are trying to do a cross check also in terms of if the person who is logging in is the correct user or not, if he has access to the registered email or the mobile number or not. If that is happening, it's absolutely fine. They are happy to allow that particular user to log in. Or if they see that this person has already logged in earlier, then which appears in his browsing history, still they are okay to allow that person to log in into that. Correct? Okay. So that's about our security and identity confirmation. I think everyone is okay with this. All right. So did we get a chance to work on, as I was discussing yesterday, that try to, insert some data into it, campaigns, leads, accounts. Did you guys get a chance to, enter some data into that? Did you face any difficulty in that? Anyone? Any challenge, anything that you noticed, anything that you want to discuss, ask, talk about? We're all good in that? Great. Now, I have a question for you all. In case you all have done that, I just have a small question for you all. Now, if I have to enter, let's say, an account, what will I do? I have to enter a new account in my database. What should I do? I have to make an entry of an account. What do I do? Where do I click? Come on, I know you all know the answer. Yeah. Where? I want to enter an account. Where should I go?
In the accounts tab, you can have an option on new.
Yes. In the accounts tab, click on new, right?
Yeah.
Correct? Okay. Really good. Thank you. If I want to enter 1000 accounts in one go, or if I have to enter 1000 accounts, one account I have to enter, I will simply go to accounts, then click on new, right? And then I will enter. If I have to enter 1000 accounts, let's say I have a list of 1000 accounts and I want to enter that, then what should I do? Then ideally what should I do?
This is Sono. You can use either a third-party data, like a data loader, or you can also use, I think there is ability in accounts to upload accounts, like a number of accounts. I'm not sure about that though. But I know with data loader you can upload accounts.
Okay. Don't you think I should go to accounts tab 1000 times, click on this, click on new, then enter, and then again go to accounts tab? Should we do it that way? Anyone who feels we should do it that way?
It's difficult to.
It's very difficult, right? Not practically, feasible. Correct. So that is the thing. If I have one record to be entered, then this is the best way. Let's say, there is a sales rep who is talking to a client, and while talking he got some information, he can quickly enter, right? So this interface is meant for one record or two records being entered. He wants to quickly edit something, he can quickly go and edit. But this interface is not meant if we have data in bulk. If I have 500 accounts or if I have 1000 accounts, this is not the right way of doing it, right? I cannot go to the tab always, right? So all that interface thing that we discussed yesterday, this is all okay if we are dealing with 1-2 records, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's fine. You can always use the interface to go ahead and create. Like you are just talking to a client and he said, okay, fine, can you just take a contact details? I say, yeah, okay, please give me. And the client gives me the contact detail, I straight away make the entry here. That's fine. But if think about it, if I purchased a list of 10,000 contacts from a certain data vendor, will I ask someone to sit here and type all that data information? No, that's not the correct way of doing it. So in that case, what we'll need to do, we'll need to do bulk data operations. Okay. So bulk data operations include certain things. What all data operations are we talking about here? We are talking about import. Import means inserting multiple records at one go. Export. Export means extracting the data from Salesforce to an Excel or CSV. Okay. So import is CSV to Salesforce. Export is Salesforce to CSV. And let me also tell you this, that Salesforce only works with a CSV file format. You know what a CSV file format is? Comma delimited. So this is a file format. Okay, it works only with CSV file format. So you can send data from a CSV file format to Salesforce. So if you have 10,000 accounts, you should first of all put all those 10,000 in a CSV file, and then you can put them into Salesforce. If you have some data in Salesforce and you just want to take an extract of it, you can do the export. You might have a requirement of updating the data as well. Okay, let's say you have all the records, and for every record you have the country mentioned as United States. You want to update everything to USA. So again, it's not a very good option, for me to go to individual record and update that. I should be able to do a bulk update. So a bulk update is an option. Bulk delete is an option. So deleting multiple records. Updating multiple records within Salesforce. So here it's neither import nor export. It's updating multiple records within Salesforce. Deleting multiple records in a go. Let's say I want to delete 5,000 records in one go. Then again, I need a bulk operation. So import, export, update, delete. Transfer. What is transfer? Transfer is basically, transferring the data from one user to the other user. Got it? Transferring data from one user to the other user. You might have noticed, in case you got a chance to enter some data into Salesforce, you might have noticed that every record that you create has a record owner. The first field, if you see every account has an account owner. Every contact will have a contact owner. The reason why Salesforce has this kind of a system, why every record has an owner, because in this kind of a system, someone needs to be responsible for every data that is lying in the system. Okay, so there's an account, someone has to take the ownership of that account. Otherwise, what will happen? Certain accounts or certain contacts will be not tracked by anyone, and no one will be actually contacting those people, right? So Salesforce has a simple mechanism. What they do is they make, and this is a mandatory field, has to be populated. So every data that is created needs to have some owner, the person who is responsible for whatever communication, whatever conversation we are having with that particular contact or account or opportunity. Let's say you have an opportunity, right? If you don't make anyone in the company responsible for that opportunity, what will happen? That opportunity will go unnoticed. We just created an opportunity, and let's say we all are the sales team in the company. Sonu feels that Sridhar will take care of that. Sridhar feels that Jeet will take care of it. Jeet feels that maybe Chandra will take care of it. What happens? No one contacts that opportunity, and we lose that opportunity. Same way, if there is a case, a customer complaint, and if there is no one responsible for that case, then what will happen? Everyone feels that the other person will take care of it. I do not have to do anything on this. And that, the case does not get resolved in time, and the client comes back, with an escalation and stuff like that happens. So that is the logic. So every record, whatever objects or whatever tabs you see here and whatever tables are there in the database, every record has an owner. Every entry which is made, every data which is entered into Salesforce will be assigned to some user. Owner is one of the users. As I told you, that your company can have 20 users or 25 users, whatever. So one of those users will be made owner of each single record or each single data. Alright. So transfer of data means transferring data from one owner to the other owner. Okay. When will we talk about mass transfer? Mass transfer is required for example, if let's say Sridhar is working in the company and Sridhar is leaving his job, and Chandra has joined in place of Sridhar. So Sridhar used to deal with, let's say, 500 accounts. Now all those 500 need to be transferred to Chandra. So that is where we need mass transfer. Alright. So this is a little like a mass update only. Okay. So these are the options which we have. So bulk data operations, we have import, where we create multiple records in Salesforce from a CSV file. export where we extract the data from Salesforce to a CSV file, update where we update multiple records within Salesforce, delete where we delete multiple records, and transfer where we transfer the data from one owner to the other owner. So these are the bulk data operations which we are going to do. There's a tool which we are going to use for this, which is called a data loader. Okay. So I just want you all to install and download and install this data loader. Okay. So anyone who is using a Mac?
Yes, I'm using
Who is that? Sonu.
Yes, I'm using
Swati is also using Mac. Okay. So people who are on Windows, people who are on Mac, just wait for a minute. Let me just instruct people who are on Windows. Just go to, you're logged in into your developer edition. Please log in into your developer edition. Go to setup. Under setup, go to data management and then go to data loader. Okay. So you don't need to do it right now. We are just gonna, once we are done with the session, you can do this, and you should be done with your installation before we meet tomorrow or on Monday. But I just want you to do this. People who are on Windows, you just need to log in into your developer edition. Make sure you are on a developer edition. Go to setup, data management, data loader. Okay, and here you will have the download data loader option. So you should go to, for Windows computers, go to setup, under setup menu go to data management, data loader, then click on download data loader. Okay, so do this one. All right, everyone on the Windows computer. Now once you are done with the downloading of the file, it will help you download an exe file. Once you have downloaded the exe file, just run that exe file and it will automatically install the data loader on your computer. That's it, like any other application is installed, so no problem at all with that. Okay, people who are on a Mac computer, for them I will just give you a link which you can use. So basically this data loader for Mac is called a Lexi loader. It's the same thing, but it's called Lexi loader. Just give me 1 minute. I'll give you the link for that. You'll not be able to download this from here. Lexi loader. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah. So for people who are using Mac, I'm going to share this link with you all. All right. You just need to come to this link and click on this. The top link, download V30. Just download V30. That's it. Nothing else needs to be done. And it will download the same exe file for you, and you can then install that. So here is the link. Sorry. Here is the link for Lexi loader, and here are the steps for people who are using Windows. All right. So that is it. So this is the only thing that I want you all to do. After we are done with the session, just install, download the exe file, install it on your computer. All right. And I think you should be ready with the data loader thing. When we meet on Monday, we will learn how do we actually do these bulk data operations. So we have understood what a bulk data operation is. Why do we do that? Now in the session on Monday, we are gonna talk about how do we do that. So we'll see examples. We will insert the file and all that stuff, and we'll do those things to understand data loader operations better. All right. So I think that's it we have for today's session. I will see you all on Monday, same time, and it's going to be the same link. Thank you all.